MakingLARP's reviews. This week I am going to be reviewing the first mainline event of the year, which was Moot 1, and discussing the events that went on, and probably going on a major rant as I'm trying a new kind of streaming format. There won't be a lot of editing, so apologies for the many ums and ahs and everything else that I've already noticed myself doing. Let's get on with the review then. So, as per last year, we're going to go through it kind of day by day. It's the easiest way for me to remember what happened, roughly in order, rather than kind of the hots and nots format. So, we arrived on the Friday. We were there slightly after time in, by the time we'd all set up, got our tents up, and everything like that. It's worth saying that the weather for the weekend was terrible. So once we got there, cars had actually stopped being allowed on site because of the rain messing up the ground. They basically said we'll not have cars on site because it runs the risk of just the whole field being ruined, and then hopefully we'll still have the chance to have them on site, to let people pack up. I don't believe that they did end up doing that in the end. I think, again, the ground was just too wet. It was also really cold over the weekend, so that probably affected a lot of the kind of general atmosphere of things. When the ground's not great, when it's cold, people don't want to go out and about as much, so it was a pretty quiet event, kind of in terms of things like fights and major things happening. As I mentioned, kind of got there on Monday slightly after time in, got all set up. We did have quite a few different things happen on the Monday, mostly kind of, from my point of view, managing to get down to the Alchemist Guild, going to their guild meeting, which was interrupted by one of the Unicorn's big bads. The Unicorns were hosting this event, so in character it was on their lands, and we were dealing with a lot of their problems. The big problem they had was a guy called the Overseer, who somehow has 16 patterns or souls in his body instead of just one, and was running around trying to do experiments to make even better on living and such, basically make super soldiers. So because he was kind of the big person people were dealing with over the event, the ritual circle had actually been taken over by him in character, and it had all been kitted up to look like it was his workshop, so there was lots of cool alchemy stuff to play with there. Dressed up of unliving servants wandering around, guarding things for him. Apparently he was kicking out healers that came into his area. Makes sense, kind of healers corruptors have a bit of a rivalry going on. There was kind of slabs with stuff indicating, we'd been testing on living subjects, even though we could only see skeletons. The kind of alchemy workshop thing with lots of weird bottles that they managed to make bubble and do different things. Mad scrawled writings on the walls saying, he never understood people till he took them apart just to see how they worked. All that big drama stuff. And he actually joined in the Alchemist Guild meeting because he decided he wanted to talk to us. So we held the meeting in the ritual tent, and he joined in and generally sneered at us all for not being as good as him. He's obviously perfected alchemy and he's the best. All that kind of good big bad evil villain stuff. What else though? So that was the big thing. The guild meeting was fun. We talked a lot about how we'd actually done lots of cool achievements with people that did research over winter. Some of the potions and poisons have changed, new things added, things made cheaper or better, all that kind of stuff. Didn't really get to spend a lot of time in the guild over the rest of the weekend. There's been change to how the format works, which I think really great. So you no longer pay a membership fee, but you pay a license to get access to the make list for potions and poisons respectively, so that you don't have the full list for both if you can't make them. And apparently lots of new fun ways they're going to get money off us rather than just charging a flat membership fee. This includes, they've got a big display where someone's made loads of effort, got all the little potion bottles and have, filled them with different coloured things, labelled them, and you can actually buy for in-character money kind of made up potion bottles. They also had a big vat with these little kind of balls that you could put in bottles that like filled with water or something. So they had like squidgy, they had like colouring, like food colouring mixtures made up that you could put in your own bottles. They'd really gone out with the set dressing for the Alchemist Guild. We had lost a couple of things, so over the course of the weekend we lost access to Flabbies, which was the guild iconic that I have always wanted to have a go with in character, and I've just never managed to do. I had like a near miss with it as a previous character, which I think I detailed in the event video for when it happened. I think it was a Geth where someone I was with drank a potion that set off like a chain petrification, where anyone that tried to heal them got petrified, which is really fun to see. And I've just never been able to actually get on the list and have a go at drinking a mystery potion myself. There's been some weird and wonderful effects like the poisons and other stuff I mentioned there. People have been auto-awakened or been given special powers. So it was really cool, iconic, and it's going to be sad that it's no longer available. And I believe the guild did go off and do a linear and stuff like that. But as you know from my previous videos, I'm not really big on the combat, so I'm not massively upset that I missed those sort of things. As I mentioned, the event was pretty cold, so I lost a decent chunk of the Saturday of the event being miserable, basically. I had a terrible night's sleep on the Friday night, so Saturday morning Emma went off to the local Asda and bought us some duvets and various things to keep us warm, but I spent a lot of the event kind of huddled around wearing every layer possible and just mooching about really. As I said, not a massive amount of interesting things happened directly to my character. I kind of just got dragged along with other stuff that was going on, but given the nature of what went on, kind of understandable. So the big thing in terms of the Lions faction is we've just had a big reveal and a massive fallout because of it. Because of what's going on, it's partly why I've been so hesitant to make this video and why it's taken so long. I've not really known what to say about it or how much is okay to discuss. Essentially, it's been revealed that there has been a group within the faction, not a group as in like a on your character card group, but a group of people who have been acting as a hit squad. I know who all of these people are in character and out of character because of some of the other people that are involved and have passed out this information. But this group has been a hit squad. From my understanding, they've not killed any lions, or if they have, we're not aware of it, but they have been targeting and attempting to kill and planning to kill lions. Now the big thing, and the part that I actually have the real out of character issue with, is that they had backing from an NPC. I think given the major events that I'm going to talk about, it's pretty obvious which NPC it was. I'm not going to name names of anyone else involved in it because, as I mentioned, it's still an ongoing thing and I don't want to ruin the plot line for people that are still playing it. I will bitch out what I feel to be the out of character things that are going alongside it. So alongside this stuff that's been happening, there's been a long-term plot that I wasn't particularly aware of. I had vague concept that something was going on with Caleb, who was at the start of the event the king of the Lions faction. He'd been Prince Caleb under Lanaya, and then when she had passed away, he took on the position of king. And kind of the stuff that was going on with him in the background, something had been placed into him that was making him evil, essentially. Making him be able to do necromancy and corruption. Apparently he'd been going around kind of blatantly saying, hey, I can do this, to people in character. It's not really my place to say if you know, whether it was a publicly known enough of a thing that it's a problem that people didn't do anything about it. However, this group, of which he was kind of saying, hey, these people are really annoying me and stopping me being able to do the evil things I need to do, or, you know, getting in the way of my improving the faction, or however you want to phrase it, were discovered, and the person or people that were able to discover about this passed on the information to the people that were on the hit list, and told them about it. And this included people that were high up members of the Lions, and members of some of the most moral and upstanding groups within the Lions. And those groups, and one individual as part of a group that was targeted directly, have chosen to leave the Lions faction. And to my understanding, Caleb has not officially announced, hey, I did this thing. He said, you know, I was being made to act evil, but now I'm fixed. And he has apparently been fixed, from my understanding, people that do this sort of thing. And he stepped down as crown. However, one of the other two crowns had gone missing at the last factional event. Now, all we know at the moment is missing. There have been lots of rumours and speculation of whether this is connected to this hit, whether, you know, it was a bad guy who's beguiled him off into distance, whether he's just walked off in the sunset. Certainly the player has turned up with a new character, but no one really knows in character what's going on with that. But obviously things like that get thrown into the mix and accusations get made. I don't know the involvement, and even if I did, it's not something I would reveal on here when it is a topic for speculation. However, because the other crown, the other person, Princess Elsbeth, had only been in the position for like a couple of events, and there wasn't another person to back her up, Caleb's now gone back to being a prince, so he's still part of the NPC team and part of the faction royalty, the faction command. This is the issue that I have, because people deciding to shiv each other up in the dark, doing it entirely in character, that's absolutely fine. My issue is the NPC involvement. I, at this point, pretty certain I'm not going to convince the rest of my group to leave the Lions before the next event. Though we've probably lost a member who is very much on the pro-murder side. Essentially, the factions that have left are the ones the most goody-goody, like, never do assassinations. The rest of us are a bit more kind of practical about it. In character, I don't really have any sort of objection. I am a massive poisoner. Well, I'm a tiny poisoner. I make poisons at level 1. But I plan on being a massive poisoner. Don't really have an issue with that being a thing that happens. I think the main objection that we've had is that the reasoning was really shitty, and it's just they're annoying me. And when the Lions are kind of standing up and singing songs and making big hoo-ha that they're the sweetest, nicest faction, you know, they're the only ones that ban necromancy and corruption, when our king was a massive necromantic corrupter, singing songs about how no lion stands alone, whilst again and again and again over years, people have been left to bleed out and not be picked up unless there's certain people. People that are friends with the right people get off on murder charges, to the point it's an field-wild joke to use the term Cade defence. And there is apparently this group within the faction, willing to murder each other, whilst we're all pretending to be nice, good people. And that's the bit that I think most gets, at least the company, our group, in characters, kind of the hypocrisy of it all, being asked to kind of swear oaths and fealties. Now, the people that did left is basically when they left, I think it was actually, I think it might have been later on the Saturday or the Sunday. I have a feeling it might have been the Sunday, and then it was just a short day left on the Monday morning after it all happened. It might have been Sunday afternoon. When they left, that basically removed all of the faction military command. So anyone that was, at least for that weekend, in charge of the lines, battle lines, and a former high sheriff, and someone that was high up in the council, because of the threats onto those people, and their entire groups going with them. But we pretty much lost a large part of the faction command. That aren't the crowns, that aren't NPC characters. We lost a lot of the PC characters. As I said, in character, we're mostly kind of like, this is really hypocritical, and it's frustrating to be expected to stand up to these values when no one else does. And if we did this, we'd be executed, blah, 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 blah. Out of character, I am pissed. To me, letting this stand, which it almost certainly will have to do because of the mechanics of NPCs, means their Lions faction might as well not exist as a concept. The point of the Lions faction, whether it was created that way, whether it's the way that things have worked out over the history of the faction, is that they are the pinnacle of what is good. And they are the only faction in the field that bans both necromancy and corruption. Some of the other light factions do ban one or the other, but none of them ban both. And for us to lose the groups that most stand up for those principles, is going to fundamentally change the way the faction works. Now, they did say in character that they're hoping to come back at the gathering and that everything will be resolved, and they just had to kind of make a show of it, otherwise nothing would be done. Personally, I don't think they'll be coming back, because I don't think the faction will get fixed. I think it's practically impossible to do so given the OC mechanics of the system. I think realistically, whatever I might think about the people that are on that squad, they could legitimately say they were acting under the instruction of a crown, and you cannot bring an NPC to trial. And that's going to be the end of it. I think there'll be some daggers in the dark. I think people, the people involved in those groups won't go out and put on hits or assassinate the assassins straight back in the face, which is realistically the only way you're going to resolve it. I think they are too powerful as a group, and in some cases certain individuals, in terms of the mechanical effects they have access to and the resistances they hold. And I think it's going to be impossible for any sort of trial or IC resolution to take place to resolve this issue, at which point the Lions faction is going to become completely a laughingstock across the field, if it wasn't already. I think we lose what makes the Lions unique, because frankly you can go and play a dagger boy in any other faction and be loved for it. We're certainly not standing certainly not no Lions standing alone when we're sitting around mistrusting each other. We're probably going to get pulled into more and more greater good and dark acts, because we're going to lose the big moral players of the faction, and the people that are individually moral characters are going to be in a position where if they stand up and say something against the crowns or against the actions of these people and try and pull the faction to the light, there's a strong possibility that they'll get assassinated, or there will be an icy perception that that's a strong possibility, and so people won't act. They'll just let things slide because it's not worth the risk of them dying, or they'll stand up and they'll die, and less people will stand up. At which point, it really comes an issue to me is the faction worth saving? Is there anything that can be done to resolve it? Now, I don't necessarily blame the NPCs involved. I think they were put in a hard situation, and being an NPC, you are in somewhat controlled by both your plot team and the one sort of world plot, and I don't know, and I don't want to know whether this is something that was backed by either of the plot teams, whether this was something that, the NPC, was mentioned a couple of times out character me that he's trying to facilitate that side of the game for those that want to play it. I think it went too far. I think there's a difference between being able to say, here, have some training vouchers, or even just mentioning something and it being understood in character, you can go do this, or introducing the right people and so they can take the win, and you being directly involved in the planning stage, because it blurs that ICOC line and it makes it seem like it's crown sanctioned, even if it's not been followed the additional IC rules that would actually, in terms of the law of the land, allow the lines to sanction that sort of thing. And I think it makes it feel like it's backed up by plot or world plot, and that it's wanted for some sort of reason. And I don't know if it is something that was pushed upon the NPC, and I know that the guy's that character, lovely bloke, don't blame him in any way. I think he was trying to do his best, but I think it's put things in an untenable position, and it's made it so that it's impossible to have a win condition in the Lions faction where you play a good character. I think that's the end of it, really, without basically burning the faction to the ground, removing anyone good from it and letting it turn into the murder hobos that everyone wants to be, and letting them basically all the cliques go in and kill each other or go down a darker path because no one's there to stop them, and let it burn out that way, or from basically killing all of the people involved. I think it's unsavable at this point. I think people are going to be put off from playing the sort of characters that the Lions are known for, because it's going to be, again, kind of that position of if you do it, they'll just kill you. And I think regardless of how actually realistic that is going to be IC, because we just don't know until things start playing out at places like the GEF, it's going to have that effect out of character. And I'm really saddened by this. To me, it's a waste. It literally is the point of why should the Lions faction exist if that's what you're going to be, because there are 4 other good aligned factions on the field that you can play those characters in, as long as you're willing to play a character that accepts necromancy or corruption as a necessary evil. If you remove the Lions faction as the one that doesn't do that, because it's basically a position of, well, if, we might say we don't, but if we're still going to use them to kill people, if we're still going to let our necromantic friends use them to cover up bodies, then really, what's the point? And again, it will be that cliquey thing of some people can get away with it and some people can't. To me, I get so angry every time I read posts about it on the Lions forums, and I just want out, because it's, to me, killing everything that faction is supposed to be and supposed to stand for. In character, as I said, don't really care. I'll probably just end up spending my time in the guilds because I don't trust anyone that is there in character, and we'll just see how it plays out. Maybe it'll just settle down and be the new normal. I think it has been mentioned by a couple of the players. I don't know how much this is rumours, it's not been said directly to me, that one of the groups that has left, if this doesn't get resolved, may in fact end up leaving the game. Or like the group itself might disband and they'll play new characters or something. I'd be very sorry to hear that happen, but I could completely understand why. If you have made your character to be the big shiny hero that stands against the darkness, and you have no choice but to play, you know, someone that can't do that because you can't play in the Lions faction and all of the other factions are going to require you to compromise, then that makes that character unplayable, and it's really sad to see that, and I think it will lead to a bit of a darkening of the entire game. And I have no idea if that's something that's happened on purpose that the Lorien Trust wanted, or, you know, as I said, don't necessarily blame the NPC. Don't know how much of it was directed, you know, from above. But it just makes me really sad, and it makes me angry at the faction, and it makes me angry that certain people have basically, it's been kind of known that this is what they were and no one's done anything to stop it, and now it's probably not going to be able to be stopped. It just makes me sad. But I think it'll be interesting roleplay. I'm hoping that this will lead to something that crystallises the faction one way or the other, and if that does eventually lead to the company leaving for less hypocritical pastors, because I don't think it's necessarily for a more good group, it's going to be for, at least we don't have to lie about it, at least, you know, we're honest with what we are, and what's expected of us. I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't guarantee this is going to happen, but I wouldn't be surprised. In terms of what else happened over the weekend, I didn't get involved with a lot of stuff. I slept a good amount of the Sunday. I kind of had breakfast, then went back to bed, and woke up and it was like 3 in the afternoon. So it was mostly sitting in corners with people, checking that various people were still alive, going, well, that just happened. What are we going to do about it? Do you think we should leave? Basically, and avoiding the faction camp. And being lied to by people saying, oh no, totally didn't mean it, oh it's definitely not still happening, and pretending to be all sad about it. There was some other good stuff at the weekend. I missed it myself, but one of the Lion's Fae ritual happened at the same time as a whole bunch of Unliving came out of the ritual circle, so everyone apparently had to run away in panic. One of the nights I did in fact go out singing with the bards and joining their little sing along across our side of the field, which was fun. And the big fight on the Monday, while it didn't go down, I helped and started unpacking packing up I should say, the Lions camp and mooching about. There were some big deaths, including Ilsa from Poison. Ilsa was the head of the Bards Guild, and she was lovely, and also tangentially involved with the reveal of everything that was going on with the Lions and letting the various groups know. And therefore accusations have been flying about that there's been like a revenge killing and all that good stuff, so we'll see how that all plays out. But yeah, there was a lot of things went on, some big deaths, the Lions cluster, and I'm very much interested to see what happens next time, and maybe, you know, after the GEF I'll be coming back and saying, yeah, we're leaving the faction this time. But let me know how you enjoyed the format and any feedback, and until a couple of weeks' time, best luck and take care.